All right, and 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we are back for this podcast number 7, and I'm doing this intro one more time because I thought we had it before, but you guys that are watching elsewhere, you get to see it one more time. Guys, thank you so much for being back here on the show for the Sonder City podcast. We've had some, I think, really exciting people in the last several weeks, if not months, but today we have some particularly special guests here today. Thank you again for being here, and I ask, as always, please become part of the conversation. Think of something to ask if you don't have one, and I would love to have you engage with us here directly in the studio as we talk today. But these two fine gentlemen here next to me are very multi-talented, everything. Starting with instrumentalists, again, from crazy bass and percussion sort of things to, I think, all sorts of symphonic instruments. You guys can probably play with those. Oh, sorry. And one more.
Hey,
there you go. Okay.
We're live.
Great. Okay, also, I mean, award-winning arrangers, composers, and producers in your own right, and now I think adventure thrill seekers, explorers, which I think is a super cool thing to add onto the list, and documentary filmmakers. But anyways, to reiterate what you're doing with their new incredible project called Symphonic Planet, they are now traveling the world in search of unique sounds wherever they go, and they take that and assimilating that into their artistry, and they take from these experiences and create some really cool things. One of which is their debut album, which we'll be talking about today, called Destination Imagination. But so, without further ado, I would love to introduce Symphonic Planet founders Noor and Jonas Peterson. Guys, thank you so much for being here again.
Oh, yeah.
Round 2.
Thanks for having us again.
Good rehearsal.
Yeah, right. I know. Got that down pat this time.
Happy to be here. Yeah.
When I think of Symphonic Planet, I think of Planet Earth, London Symphony Orchestra, and then like Survivor, because I was watching like you guys try to survive in the desert. But can you please give us a quick run through what is Symphonic Planet about? How did it all get started and whatnot? Because it's a really cool idea, and I've never heard anything like it before.
Yeah.
He gets to go first.
I get to go first. Okay.
Just like last time.
Well, so I mean, we are composers, producers. I mean, our life happens in dark rooms like this. We rarely see any sunlight or anything, and I've literally done that for 15 years, almost without a break. And I mean, mostly working in studios without windows and stuff.
Nice.
And then I came to LA where the weather is better, and I realized, oh, it's just the same. Most studios don't have windows.
Well, I don't see any fangs in your teeth, so I mean, okay, that's good. That's a good check.
Yeah.
You're not one of the Hollywood vampires.
He's too busy fighting the White Walkers.
Nice.
Yeah.
You should see him on Halloween on Santa Monica Boulevard. He's always looking for his Daenerys Targaryen.
Oh yeah.
You live right down the street from like Santa Monica Boulevard?
I do.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. That sounds amazing, but also scary at the same time.
Yeah. We have the helicopters when there's a parade. Then I can't do any violin recordings because I have a helicopter circling. Yeah.
See, that's what North Hollywood's got a lot of.
Those are just very big drones, Jonas.
Yeah.
There's a big drones. Okay, so you've done a lot of that, like in the dark in the studios. You've been doing music for a long time, but did you have this idea for a while, and then when did that sync up with you? I mean,
Well, so Jonas and I became friends through a really close mutual friend, Danny Kastner, and Jonas had made some life-changing decisions for himself in terms of his career as a mixing engineer and as a producer. I was I was producing at the time, but I was mainly a freelance gigging musician, and we were just hanging out, really kind of develop our friendship. Can I say the funny way how we became friends? I think it's the funniest thing.
I'm gonna you have to say that.
Oh yeah,
okay.
You mean the book?
Yes, the book.
Oh, of course.
So Jonas is has grown so much as a socially competent person now, or sorry, not confident, confident person.
Oh.
But at the time he had met me, he was reading a book on how to influence people and make friends.
Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence.
Great book. Okay, great. So you're studying the master.
That's how we
Well,
met.
he was testing
Shut
the
up.
book. He was.
No.
He was.
You were a test subject.
I was a
lab
test
rat.
subject.
You were
I
the
mean,
lab rat.
Yeah, I mean, seriously. So he was
Nice.
at that time,
That's
like
pretty
he was
funny.
spending a lot of time at our place, and I was like mostly in my studio, just like doing my thing. Usually when there's people hanging out, I don't really socialize with them. I'm gonna talk a little bit or something. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna talk. I'm just gonna try what's in the book to be like maybe
No
talk to him a
way.
little bit, and maybe like
see
see
here.
what he's
One-
working on, and maybe even like complimenting him on some things he's doing. Or something.
You're like reading. Okay, step 3.
I'm starting to wonder now if you're still following the book, whether if your like
Oh my
compliments
God.
as of lately have been really that authentic or really
Who
from the book.
knows? You
Well, he's
never
mastered
find
it so well
Oh my
now that you can't tell the
gosh.
difference. So
Jeez.
just
Yeah.
hats off. I mean,
I'm learning things here.
But so
I
we're
need to
just
pick up that book
making,
again.
we're just making a really big advertising for this book because it seems to be working.
wow. I mean, so are they one of your sponsors?
Um,
Is Dale
No.
Carnegie one of your
No.
sponsors?
No.
Not yet.
It's a really old
Not
book.
yet. Not yet. Okay. Well, you're working on it. You're doing a good job.
Uh,
That's funny. So you were practicing that, and you were
Yeah, a little
okay,
bit. Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I have to say, like, I really connected to the music he is writing, to the way he's writing, and like. Thus far, like before I met him, the only people I've kind of met in LA were like pop producers and pop people or jazz. Or
Oh,
all
go
that kind-
figure.
So, but he is really kind of the first person that's been doing something else, more like cinematic, but not just like a standard film composer. I know many of these people as well, where you're just like I'm a film composer,
Yeah.
So I like to work. I like to sound like John Williams or something. So which is amazing. I could never do that, but yeah, I liked what he's doing because he was writing
interesting.
more minimal, more style that I don't know. I liked it from the beginning.
We it's a very competitive and very difficult industry here, and it can really drain you, and you can start asking yourself a lot, especially if you're creative, if you're an entrepreneur, and you start asking yourself questions like, to what end is this going to be my life, where I'm just going to go gig by gig, and I'm going to keep on trying to get the next gig that's going to bring me to the next level, but at what point is that level yours?
Right.
And back the cool thing, you and I are Marine brothers.
Semper Fidelis, brother.
Semper Fidelis, Semper Gumby. So
Semper Gumby. God, big green weenie.
So when I was in Virginia at the Navy School of Music, I used to spend a lot of time out in town, and the best $3 I've ever spent in my life was out of Goodwill, and I bought 3 books, and the one book is kind of like the main thing that's been, important. But
He's gonna bring it out.
I gotta bring it out.
Okay, wait. Can I stop you real quick? Because
Yeah.
So when I first met Noor, he did tell me that he also had this one book that he shares with everybody part of his project, and this is cool. I've actually never checked it out. But
So, yeah.
what's it called?
It's called 501 Must Take Journeys.
Wow.
And just so y'all see that, it's out of print.
Lonely Planet? Oh no.
It's out of print. No, it's a British company that's no longer around. Bounty Books and
Bounty Books. Hold on, dude. This thing could like kill a cow if it dropped in like
there's an
10-story
itinerary for
building.
around the
Look at
world in
this thing.
80 days. There's, all kinds of cool stuff in there. So Jonas and I were sitting down and we were just talking about, man, God, we miss traveling. We want to travel. We're so tired of being stuck, of having to do these the same thing over again, hustling for the gigs, to make a living, doing him being stuck in a 4-walled room in a closet
For
or
15 years.
and for 15 years. Come meet us. The world is waiting for you, Jonas. And me, I missed traveling. I did a lot of touring in the Marine Band.
Right.
But it was a very different experience than when I had traveled and toured before the service. And I always struggled, like, what is it that is me, what I always wanted to do? How do I combine everything I love? Because apparently, for me, I tried this foreign diplomacy thing and to study international politics, and it didn't really jive very well.
Yeah.
And then I love humanitarian service. I love culture. I love music, definitely, and I love world music, and I love film. I love all this stuff, and so does Jonas. And where does it, at first the project actually started like, hey, we wanted to travel the world, so let's write some meditation or ambient music and sell it to spas.
Yeah, okay, so let's find an excuse that can propel our adventure.
Yeah, right. let's just make some money to pay for flight tickets to go on vacation.
Right.
And then
some like Chiang Mai Beach or something.
Yeah, and then I pull out this book and I'm like, Jonas, I wonder what it would sound like if we like had our own soundtrack if we went to that place.
Oh, that is so cool.
And hey, what do you know? We should go there.
Oh, Lofoten.
All right, put it down. All right.
So
it's not that far from LA.
No.
Yeah, financially,
it's like 150.
Financially.
Yeah, because
through Norwegian.
Fly to Norway.
Norway.
Anyways.
So we
cheaper than New York.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
God,
we flew, I don't know about you, but I flew to on our recent trip to London. I flew to London for $160.
Wow, that's like cheaper than like a inter island flight in Hawaii, which is really sad but true. Holy cow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So we learned a lot about how to travel on a budget. It's kind of a part of the thing because everything we do since then, except for one time, everything was privately funded by us, out of our pocket. And but yeah, so we had the book and we were just so inspired by, man, what would it be like to go to these places, imagining if there's sounds there or instruments, the culture, the music, and traveling with a purpose. Like, forget about traveling for vacation. You always, when you go on a vacation, I feel like, I don't know, my experience, every time I go on a vacation, I feel like I need a vacation from the vacation.
From the vacation, you're like,
because
ready to be back in work.
I'm so exhausted from that, and I've never had my personality and my habits never allows me to chill, be a beach lizard. I've always have to do something, like, I don't know, one
Sounds
time
a guy from Florida.
my dad took me, I wasn't like
Florida, this guy,
yeah.
So he's from Florida.
When I was a kid, my dad, when I went to Malaysia for the first time or second time, I can't remember, my dad took me to a kung fu tournament, and he turns around and I'm gone and I'm helping out a marching band.
What?
He's like, I brought you here to check out music.
Oh,
I was in my late teens.
Oh, damn. That's great. So he was like calling you.
Well, yeah, I've always had this connection with the local culture, and so it immediately transformed into composing music based off an imagination of what would our soundtrack if you had your own soundtrack for your own life and experiences, what would it be replicated into?
Yeah, you remember our first ever try that track didn't even make it on the album was for Iceland.
Yeah, it was for Iceland.
And
sounds like a great place to start.
And the funny thing is, because even then I started, because I was totally into sampling. I've sampled grand pianos back in Vienna and stuff, and so I wanted always to sample unique sounds and stuff. Yeah. And so, but we didn't travel. So basically, what he did is he wrote a little piece based on inspired by this place, and then I went on YouTube and sampled traditional Icelandic instrument. I think it was a flute.
Yeah, flute, yeah.
Where I literally took the YouTube video and then I cut out the notes and sampled it.
And then so that was all sampled stuff, and then you're like, well, what if we did it for real, sort of thing?
So yeah, I mean, we after 3 pieces, we were inspired. Our first one was Journey to Krakatoa.
Yeah.
We wanted to imagine what it was like to be there in the 19th century to witness the world's most devastating explosion, which it just recently exploded. Not as big, but
it's a volcano.
It's a volcano. It's a volcano in Indonesia.
Yeah.
And we have a really cool collaboration in the works right now with an animator to kind of build a narrative.
That's even cooler.
So it's so cool.
And that's like the finishing track of the album, right?
Yes, it is. So we started.
It's got a nice climb and build. I'm like,
the album's kind of cool because it starts with the most recent piece.
Okay.
We finished to the
My
very first
2
one.
tracks,
And then so then after that we did the Romantic Road, which is a journey you can take in Germany to these beautiful landscapes and castles, and that one I personally think is one of my favorites because it was a very contemporary, I don't know, slightly some flavors, some spice of some classical themes, but I feel like a lot of composers, the very difficult thing as a composer is to avoid using percussion or anything like a rhythmic instrument to glue tempos and music together. And that one was just really just pure orchestration, feeling, and just like different patterns to. And I also played with composite time signatures. And that was a lot of fun.
Wow. Okay.
So,
it felt very free flowing.
Yeah, that 7/8 feel really propels motion a lot, very well. It's in there. Okay. So, and then the third one, before we actually started traveling, was the Sacred Valley Trek, which is a sacred trek that you take in Bhutan to get to a temple.
Yeah, it sounds very, very Bhutan. It's great. We haven't actually been there.
Right.
Yeah, I want to hear this one.
And that one uses Audrey on the flute.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Yeah, she played really well.
Yeah.
And it's great. It sounds very. It actually sounds ethnic, even though she just.
And we can't forget though. We
really
had
cool.
help from a friend. His name's Mugen Kamandore. He played guitar on all three of those tracks, and it was fun. But it was just kind of like it kept on fueling our inspiration, and Jonas is like, okay, we gotta like stop doing this. We need to go somewhere. We need to do this. Is the reason why we're doing this is to travel. So why don't we travel and write music? About
stop pulling it from YouTube.
Let's
because
we're still kind of doing this whole studio thing still. So I mean that's not what this is about, and so
and is that when Death Valley came in, or did that come in?
I mean, later? It's in the book. Yeah. We
literally went through the book. And what's the cheapest thing? The thing that we could do that's in the book.
What's affordable? Here we go. Oh, boom!
That's the closest. Like Death Valley is like a 5-hour drive or something from LA. So and then we found out that they had the sand dunes and everything. And it looks like
that was so cool.
Desert.
I had no idea they had howling
the sand dunes.
Yeah.
We had no idea, but the Eureka Sand Dunes, which is 80 miles north from Stovepipe Wells, for where you have to check in for the national park. That far north, the Eureka Dunes are also known as the singing sand dunes, and they sing a note. So the valley behind the dunes, it amplifies the sound, and there's this friction of hot and cold sand that fall and rub against each other that creates this vibrational sound that sings between these low tones between like what E flat and F sharp.
Oh, shut up! You know the wow.
Well, because he had to.
That's how you know you guys are real musicians.
That's impressive. If you watch the documentary on the Echoes of Death Valley, Jonas talks about how it would be really cool to have an orchestra kind of play the same note, but not really, because that's what the sand dunes were doing.
Yeah, that's. I'm gonna. Okay, yeah. I have to stop you right here, Noor. Because I'm just getting excited hearing you guys talk about it. I want to like show everybody what you guys are actually doing. So we're gonna step into your world real quick and actually watch what happened here with. So this is. As soon as I can fix the sound. Okay, I'll tell you what. Oh man, I hate. It's all something technical.
What we were doing is almost die.
Almost what?
Almost die.
Almost die?
No, we didn't almost die. But it looks like it.
I mean, it sounded like you guys were. It was an expedition.
It was pretty intense, and yeah. Okay.
Wow, some really beautiful shots here too. Okay, let's see if I can try to get the audio working here. So that's all the fun associated with.
Road from
okay,
anyone
sweet.
else.
Okay, here we go. From the beginning, from the top.
One of us went down. I didn't mean to try to push them that far. It is Death Valley. It's very difficult.
Something's really wrong, and I'm scared now. What if I pass out? We're 80 miles on a dirt road from anyone else.
Death Valley, this dry place, nothing grows there.
I can see why people die here.
It is really you and the desert.
You're just a guest in this place that is going to last a lot longer than you.
I love those shots. I mean, they're so cool. You have like the picture and it's moving. I don't know how you do it, but it's like totally pro. Bam! That's beautiful right there.
That was over 2 years ago.
Wow, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I love it. Like again, I'm like fucking watching Planet Earth a bit, but like you talked about with there's like being a purpose. I like how there's like the symphonic purpose behind it, and you're trying to capture that. Now, are you guys like? Do you have a whole crew when you're doing this sort of thing, or what's like?
It depends on who's available. We were very adamant in trying to keep a 4-person team, 4 to 5-person team. You know,
That's them. That's the 4. Is that?
That was the
at the time. It's changing like constantly, and it depends on where we're going and who has time and what trips, and you know it's
right. It's tough.
Not everybody can go to.
So I mean, he and I had to learn a lot about photography and filming. I learned a lot from our DP, Cameron Kumbi, and
that was after Death Valley. He joined us, so we were like, you know what, we need someone who knows something more about cameras and stuff than because we mostly used GoPros and the drone in Death Valley, and we did it all ourselves.
What kind of drone was that, by the way?
That was some
crappy.
Crappy, dude. It looked good. It looked great.
Like. Anyway, that was the first one. We've since then upgraded all of our gear.
Nice. Okay, wait. My one question first. How do you do those sweeping shots like that? Is that
I can tell. I mean, this is just a zoom, but then you have the it's called parallax effect, where you see these pictures where it's moving within each other.
So you've got a couple different images.
It's one picture. I mean, it's here. This is, for example, where you see it's moving. It feels like 3D. It's a lot of work to do.
Okay, gotcha. So
it's basically an animation. Like I've seen that on a CNN documentary once, and I was like, you know what, I got to do this.
Dude, it looks great. I mean, that just like elevates the whole production. Sorry, I don't mean.
Okay. No, you're good. You're good.
That was really, I love doing that, even though it's a lot of work with each picture because you have to like separate the different layers and everything. But yeah, it's worth it. I mean,
I'm
also
so blown
because
away.
the pictures turned out so well. I love these pictures so much, and I was like, I want to use them as a movie. You know?
I'm so blown away by your guys' production ability. Again, like multi-talented, musicians as you guys are. Now you're, as in documentary filmmaking is what you're doing here, tying all these, skill sets together, and it's turning out really nice. And
Thank you.
I'm really excited to see where it goes. So, so take us back. You were doing this 2 years ago, and was there a big, did you foresee a bigger purpose in all this, and was the vision of Symphonic Planet where it was today time?
I think it got deeper, and it opened our eyes more when we started going international.
Okay. Ooh, yeah.
There are, going to Death Valley, we all came back. It was interesting because at the very end, we were at a McDonald's in Mojave, and there was a Mauryan shaman sitting there who joined us eating a breakfast burrito. And of all places, in the middle of nowhere, there's a Mauryan, a spiritual leader.
The universe is one.
But all of us in the car going back, and we're like, we have to do this. I've never had any fulfilling experience like this in my life that is connected travel, music, and culture and the environment, and writing the music, coming up with it. Even we're so tired, but there was so much. There's just a wealth of it of an experience and stories built in. Getting lost and finding a ghost town in the middle of a desert.
That was one of my favorite parts of that episode, by the way.
I mean, it's just like a lot of this spontaneity is the hidden gems and the Easter eggs, and anywhere you go. We thrive off of that, and it gives the music a new purpose and identity. And for us, there are so many amazing things out there outside your doorstep that is so inspiring, and that serves more than one purpose in terms of art. And it yields a lot of amazing results if you can think outside the box on how to incorporate that into your own creativity. Yeah. So when we started,
spoken like a true artist, by the way.
When we started traveling, after a couple trips, we crowdfunded our expedition to Borneo.
Okay, what did we Kickstarter, or was it?
We used GoFundMe.
GoFundMe, nice.
And thanks to April and Jack and everyone else, We had some amazing support to get us out there. Unfortunately, Jonas had an accident. He couldn't join us, but we will go back.
We'll go back. And I feel I've been there. I work with all the footage and the videos and the sounds. I'm like,
you need to get lost in the jungle.
But I'll go there.
I was gonna say Borneo sounds dope, man.
Borneo, just in case some of you don't know where Borneo is,
right?
Borneo is in Malaysia, and if you don't know where Malaysia is in Southeast Asia near Indonesia, and Borneo is the third largest island in the world, and it's shared between 3 nations, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Brunei, and the East Malaysia portion, because the other part, West Malaysia, is on a peninsula shared by Thailand and Singapore, but the other side is has some of the oldest rainforests in the world, and even prehistoric organisms and plants that still thrive out there, and so do the cultures and the tribes. So we went out there to go study this instrument called the sape and find all these other tribal instruments from other groups, and we collaborated with an organization called Art4, and we had a feature artist. Her name was Elena Morang, and so
are they in that video you guys had?
They are.
Okay, cool. You mind if I play it real quick?
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like this episode a lot. By the way, it's super cool.
Yeah, this video is a recording highlight I just put together of some of the instruments and the things that we got.
When was this, by the way?
This was in 2017, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Nice.
in the summer.
So shortly after your Death Valley trip.
It's actually a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Man, that is. Is that the featured artist? Yes. Oh, that's so cool.
She's amazing.
Wow. Oh my God! Look at. That's so jealous. Wow, beautiful shots too. By the way, love the Okay, so and there was Art4 that you talked about as well.
Yeah. They
okay.
so I got connected with them and we started collaborating. And we had this amazing experience out there. It coming back from it and reflecting, it opened up other avenues and realizing that this project can do so much more than just music.
Yeah.
Environmental awareness, cultural awareness, to preservation of all these sounds, and serving as goodwill ambassadors. It really, I find it very important because our world is changing all the time, and especially now we're facing a lot of, whether if you believe in the environmental impact that our planet is going through, which
It's true.
It's true. However, whatever your beliefs are, you cannot deny the fact that change happens politically, economically, and everything. All of that we forget and we lose sight that all of that plays a huge part of the creation of art and how it can survive and how it lives, because that preserves the most precious and important parts of human history. And
that's well said. Yeah.
So environmentally, I mean, Symphonic Planet, we up to that point hadn't done that much cultural integration and immersions. It was all very environmentally based, and that is super important. Going through Rim of the World in San Bernardino, sitting in these fire-torn forest, you're witnessing.
Oh, charred forest. That's where it came from.
That's
cool.
yeah.
I'm excited just to hear where these songs are inspired by.
The charred forest. That took a while for us to figure out the name, but there'll be a new single that that
nice.
involves 24 violins and orchestrations to that. So that one's going to be very special.
Oh, I want to hear more about 24, by the way.
He really wants that. I always insisted to have that track without violins, just the piano, because it's so beautiful. That's how it's on the album.
Yeah,
but now we decided to still also
I think
put
it's
out
worth
the
it,
one with the
and guys,
strings. Yeah.
there is the debut album. I want to reiterate here, they have an extremely beautiful piece of work they just put out, their debut album, Destination Imagination. I'm totally going to rep you guys. I recently took my wife to Big Bear, and you lose connection when you get up there. So I pre-saved a bunch of music ahead of time, and I'm a big instrumental cinematic guy. And I remember it just came out right before we went up there. I'm like, oh, dude, let me check it out. And so I saved it, and it was one of the most perfect, score, instrumental things to be listening to as you're driving through that landscape. And I was just like, wow, it's so beautiful. Like when the steps speak track was up and towards the crescendo in the middle. Cool. I was like, wow, I'm really soaring up here. And then the Charred Forest was a little bit of a downer, but I felt really emotional. And,
well, the Charred Forest was a downer because we were pretty down in San Bernardino Mountains where you were.
That's San Bernardino. That's so sad.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's really beautiful. Go check it out. It's all over the place. iTunes. Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. I really recommend it, especially if you're doing a scenic drive.
Well, if you're around, another plug, if you're around April 6th, we have a album release party here in North Hollywood. And so we got some fun stuff planned out that we're putting together for all you.
It's at the Other Door, is that right?
It is.
Okay, April 6th, the Other Door. If you're in North Hollywood, or if you're in LA, you need to come join these guys. Maybe join us. Hopefully I can make that too. But I'm definitely... at least gotta go for a bit.
Yeah,
so
we're gonna have cool stuff. We're gonna set up some stations where you can play the samples from different places and stuff.
Yeah, so we're kind of leaving a really big part of what we do. Because we sample all these sounds, right? We sample all these sounds and these instruments, but how do I can't carry the sand dunes in my backpack, or I can't
that's
right, and I can't go just shoot down a bird from Borneo and take it back and hope it sings. That's environmentally incorrect.
That was uncalled for.
No, I'm just kidding. but the thing is, so we're capturing the soul of the instruments or the sounds through our sound equipment, but between all of us, Jonas mainly and Cameron, we take the sounds and we develop. We'll say non-producer terms, but basically multimedia composing applications known as plugins and VSTs. That cool. We and pretty soon, I think we're getting kind of close. I mean, to releasing a couple, at least for beta testing. So you can play the instruments that we've captured on our expeditions around the world, and they come with the coordinates, so you can exactly where to find them.
Wow!
With the beautiful all this amazing interface. So if you're a performer, or if you're a film editor, a director, or you're a composer, or producer, you'll be able to use these tools in your arsenal and use these sounds that are very difficult to capture elsewhere. And we bring the journey to you through your practical application.
Man, the concept is simple to understand if you just think about, for example, that abandoned town that we found in the desert that had that old piano there. So what we did is basically we recorded every single note in a different kind of ways. So then at home in the studio you can play the piano on your keyboard basically.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, how long did that take? That piano?
It took a couple hours.
Okay.
I actually went back there a year later to do more sampling because we didn't have enough because it's not that far.
Well, I mean, it doesn't.
That's so dope, by the way. I gotta show that after this.
I mean, spending time to sample the sounds takes time, but building the actual interface for it, it's a much more detailed and process.
You have a sleek designer that's doing a super dope visual, because man, that just sells it. Are you serious?
Yeah,
I'm doing it.
Oh my god! Because you look at contact.
You can on our website you can see a basic kind of
Oh, okay.
idea.
We're doing that first. All right. Symphonicplanet.com, guys.
Yeah,
plug in.
It's gonna be in tools. We'll have. I mean, the new stuff. Oh my gosh, we have a lot of upkeep to do on the website because there's so much new stuff that we haven't. So and when you go to tools, the tool
musical
tabs,
journey starts here. Love that.
At the very top, there's a tab called Tools.
Oh, that's a beautiful site, by the way.
Thank you.
Gotta say.
So that's a
that's
concept
so
that you can get an idea.
Oof.
There's a lot more bells and whistles involved now.
Oh man, you did the graphics for this?
Yeah. I mean,
Wow.
and this is an old version. It looks better. So yeah, I mean, it's very like we're trying to be simplistic with these things, and you have a couple of functions that are really standard, where you have different room mics. Well, basically, usually one pair of room mics and then a pair of closed mics. For example, in Malaysia, the percussions that we recorded there, it was a beautiful sounding room, like all wooden. It's a perfect drum room.
Wow.
And so we
That's
had room
perfect
mics
for that.
set up and closed mics, and you can like dial them in the plugin later. And then we include our own reverb. It's called Symphonic Space. It's basically
reverb. That's
yeah,
pretty
because
sick.
like for me, I mean, it's a long story. I don't want to tell the whole story, but like I spent a lot of a lot of years in classical music, working mixing classical music and film music, and reverb is so important.
Okay.
And like a lot of times when I was using plugins or something, I got the feedback like, yeah, I like it, but the reverb doesn't sound good or something. So I used to always go to these old studios and use these expensive old lexicon reverbs to get a good sound, and so ever since and so what I'm trying to do now with these sample libraries is that I'm actually sending each sample through the reverb and including that in the libraries. It's the reverb setting that I have in my studio. It's a mix of a large room, a kind of smaller room, and a small room. It's basically what I use for cinematic music. So you can just dial in your reverb, and it just sounds like a big, nice cinematic reverb without having to think about what reverb I'm gonna use.
So if you don't understand too much of musicality terms, reverb is obviously quite key, especially in the sort of cinematic space and all kinds of music. But I mean, you guys are selling me on this already, so consider you got a customer. I'm big on visuals too, and I've got I got atmosphere and contact and all that stuff. But like the visuals alone were like, whoa, this is dope. It's got that nice like world vibe as well, which to me is very important. You feel like you're in a different space when you have like this cool plugin, or VST. I really want the visuals to sync up with the magic of the music too, and it looks like you guys have got that. It looks really beautiful, and I can't wait to see when that's coming out.
We have a lot going on. I mean, as a multimedia company,
I'm realizing this really is multimedia.
We do. I mean, that's why it's taking long, to get everything out. But it's we do a lot of things, but we love it. I mean, we have a TV show basically. We have a sample library company, and we and then we write music too. So.
But okay, before we move on, I'm sorry, I have to show the ghost town because when I saw it, I was like, what? So to recap what they were talking about before, on their Death Valley expedition, after they survived the howling dunes and apparently life of coconut water and I don't know, slaving away, through the sand, you guys made it out and found a random town where you found a random
We
piano.
were trying to get to these charcoal kilns on top of a mountain.
And
then
even cooler.
there was no directions, and we got lost, and then we came across this place.
Okay, well here it is. I had to show this real quick.
Other tourists, they look at it, okay, there's nothing here. But for us, it was a playground of all these abandoned vehicles, engines.
This is it, right? Right here?
Upright piano that's just been sitting there with the strings exposed.
Look at that. That's like from a movie.
When we found it, it had like used shotgun shells on it.
Nice. That's even more cool.
When you shut the door.
There was just so much there. I had to hit everything.
Look at that. There you go. Make an instrument. You guys got a VST of the truck too?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like if you're a Charles Manson fan, that's Tex Watson's truck.
Charles Manson's follower.
No way.
Abandoned his truck.
It has a history. That's not a very
I hit it
good
with different
history.
tools, drumsticks
dark
and
history,
brushes and hammers, to just try to get all kinds of different unique sounds and different timbres.
What we try to do is, of course, to kind of emulate percussion ensemble. So we have to get a couple of low sounds and a couple of mid-range sounds, that's usually like smaller things, and then a couple of high-range sounds, which we recorded too.
So I can play the truck bed, and then I can play the the wheelhouse.
You'll be able to play everything.
And then we moved over to the piano that was on the deck and proceeded to do the same thing lightly with different frequencies of the strings and, in the lower ends, the legs, and try to capture all that sound.
This is an amazing sound. Can you do it quicker? One. You go in the desert and there's a piano in the middle of nowhere.
When we first got there, I'm looking around. I'm seeing this beautiful old jailhouse
That's
still intact.
amazing.
It had three rooms, maybe.
There's
like
no one else
10
around?
square feet each.
Just one guy. Well, two, but one. There's one guy. His name's Rocky.
He lives there?
Yes.
So when we
so that's why it's
pulled up and we
Rocky's
see the
piano.
trading
Yeah.
post,
Okay.
it didn't even dawn on
He lives in
me.
a trailer behind it. Behind
Okay.
there.
Yep.
But he's
Is he
still
safe? Is he like,
Here,
get on
there,
my
there he is.
house?
There he is.
Oh, that's Rocky! Oh, dude!
He's a really cool
There's
guy. I mean, he's very like.
Is he an ex-Marine?
No.
He's
Or is it-
amazing. He's so nice.
Oh,
I know
dude.
the Digi shirt. It's
And I mean, he's selling beer and like
I mean,
Okay, we'll keep skipping. We'll go
Other
over that.
wonderful
alcoholic
spirits.
beverages. Because actually, like, you know, we were there in kind of the late summer where you're not supposed to go because it's really hot. And it's basically a winter park because in the winter it's not too hot there. And I was there recently in the winter, and there were actually a lot of tourists there. Right there at that ghost town. When we were there, when we were there, there was really no one there. It was really in the middle of nowhere, you know. So, but I understand now how they can live there because it's like the only place where you can like buy water or beer or some food or something.
Whatever
Yeah,
spirits
and
he's got
then,
on
and
sale.
then and then they have a pool in the back. It's
a
like
clothing optional pool.
it has a sign that says clothing option. That was really funny. Yeah, we all took a bath in that pool when it was nice.
That sounds disgusting. Sorry, that sounds. Did you take a shower before you got here? Please
We
say
have never
yes.
taken a shower since then.
No,
In 3 years, I've never showered.
Yeah,
That's an
by the
important part of the
way-
expedition, I'm sure. You gotta be.
no, we are. By
All
the
the
way,
grime
California
off of us.
is finally out of the drought, so now we can finally
That
take
is-
showers again.
Dude, high five, right? Actually, like, you drive around LA right now, it's actually pretty green, which is amazing. Like, you know, you go up into Thousand Oaks. That place is usually, like, barren, dude, but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Okay.
that was awesome. I'm really looking forward to the Rocky Piano VST. And does Rocky do music, too? Because
No.
he should be excited for
He
that
just
piano
he,
VST.
he's just his job is telling stories
Okay.
to people that come there, like about these abandoned vehicles and everything. And oh yeah, that's when that happened. They came here and then they and this person like this happened. They had this accident there, and you know he's
Oh my God.
but he's amazing. You can like sit there for hours and just
Yeah.
listen to what he has to say.
Does he have, like,
I love it,
Noor,
yeah.
and he's got, like, a chip thing on his shoulder, and he's a little...
Yeah.
He's definitely I don't know, what would you call it? He's definitely a ranger. He's a lone
Nice.
ranger there.
Did you see Charles Manson? Had
Yeah.
something to do with the truck?
They used to like Charles Manson and his followers used to go there and meet there, and it was their place kind
Oh,
of.
dude, that's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
You guys are lucky to be alive.
And then I don't know if you saw that in the video, like in that little jailhouse, there was like how do you call it? Like it was written on the walls.
he
basically.
scratched like he
Yeah.
scratched his name in there.
It said Charles Manson was here.
It's
Oh,
in the
that's
back.
wild,
It's a
dude.
little scary though.
Okay, wait, I had to show everybody. So, again, this guy, he sounds like a pretty central figure right now in this one episode at least. So
Yeah,
that's Rocky.
That was pretty
that's
important
Yeah.
right there.
Man, that's a great shot, by the way. You guys just, what was this, DSLRs, or were you using?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean,
beautiful.
photo. Yeah, and I animated. The movement, but no, it
Nice.
looks beautiful.
Anyways, that was beautiful episode. Check out, that is on YouTube, by the way, episode 1 of Symphonic Planet. Hopefully of many more to come.
We are working on that. There's we have 2 years worth of all this content to go through. And we do have a team outside of the two of us that has been helping and assisting us put together. But you know, before we pull all these documentaries out, we definitely think it's very effective and very important to put out these recap videos, these short videos, so people get the idea of what's going on before we present them the full
Nice.
shebang, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, it's especially this album needed to come out. And I mean, for a while we were debating whether if we were going to do it, if we were just going to put it, because I mean, we had kind of no idea. I mean, we didn't really have much of an idea what type of content we wanted to put out. I knew I wanted to listen to all the music that we've done. I was like, we could do an album out of this. We should share this, and then put this up so that we have now another stepping stone to propel us into this world that we're stepping into, you know, it hasn't been easy because you still have to make your living when you're starting up a company, and you have to when you're pursuing something very, you know, this ambitious, it takes a lot of commitment.
So there's probably not a ticket sales going on Death Valley for you to be funding your trip out there. That's my next question was, how are you guys able to fund what you're doing? And because I mean, we talked about Borneo, Death Valley, you know, fairly close, but you recently did Europe as well, right? For a couple weeks time.
We did.
And
yes,
that sounds amazing too, by the way. But how do you guys do it? Because that's pretty cool. As musicians, you know, we're all
very
typically
painfully.
Very painfully. Okay.
I mean, well, yeah. The short answer is we just make that our priority. Other people make other things their priority. Like somehow you don't ask people like, how can you afford having a car? Like how can you afford doing all this? Like how can you afford to go get food at a restaurant that's not the cheapest or stuff like that? I mean, at least it's, we have to, like, I live very minimalist, so I can afford go on trips like this, not only because of that, but because that's my priority, you know. I don't need to like show off how much money I have.
I love that.
The crazy thing is that everyone thinks traveling and going somewhere amazing is very expensive, but it doesn't cost any different than you driving back and forth or going to the movies weekly, you know. I mean, tickets are like $15.
Too expensive.
You end up,
you know,
remember Hollywood. Dude.
Remember I used to say plane tickets instead of plug-in.
No. He used to give me the hard time because I always loved.
Wow.
I was like, Jonas, look at this new plugin. Look at this thing, and it's like, Noor. So we came up with a saying that's like less plugins, more plane tickets.
Yeah, because
that's hilarious.
You buy a piece of software for like $200-300.
Right.
That's like a flight to Europe, you know.
And why not make your own software?
Yeah.
Well, why not? Damn, when you can do it, yeah.
I mean, there's so many.
Plugins, yeah.
If you look at things, there are so many affordable things. Like we are going on, a day trip on Sunday, to explore a volcano crater, and 2 hours away, and we're exploring lava tubes, and you know the acoustics, and we're bringing some friends along, and then. And it's so close, but it's so like it's in a different world, and there are so many things around you that so many people become so short-sighted, and they overlook that there's so many exciting stuff. Just you don't have to jump a flight across the world. However, if you plan in advance, or you think about it, it's like, you know, cost to Europe and back is probably a cost of a plugin, or you know, you're thinking about upgrading your phone. Your phone works, right? It takes calls, it sends messages, and you can live stream whatever you want. But
it doesn't turn my face into a cool like animation emoji. I need that.
Okay.
Or the T-Rex VR, you know.
But I mean, they're the things that we live in excess that we place so much value in. Those things, you know, if you resize it, what's more exciting for your life? That fad that's going to, you know, phase out, or the experience that, you know, that you can't beat, you know. Like for instance, we just got back, we did this episode on in this trip on man-made instruments played by nature. I mean, I am so proud to say that we made it through a small snowstorm and the north of England. It was in England to record the singing ringing tree, and you know, you know, Jonas hates the cold, but now he's like, you know, I don't care. It's worth it to be there, to see, you know, to be immersed in Mother Nature and to capture the sound, to be part of the experience. And what story better than that, you know, or meeting people. You know, we made some friends at a local pub in a place where nobody like gets visitors in near London, and we made friends that work for the Queen of England, you know.
That was
it's
fun.
like
that's really cool.
Or we're in, you know,
that was amazing.
We fly cheaply.
Did you meet them in a pub too, or
who?
The Queen of England friend?
The Queen, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the Queen of England was there, you know.
I mean, you know, it's like we ended up, it's funny, I mean, that trip I was kind of planning, so, I mean, basically what I was doing is I just, like, went on the map and looked at Airbnbs that are the cheapest, because we had a car anyways, we can go to any, like, random town where whatever, it's, like, most affordable for us.
Yeah.
And so we ended up in this little village where we didn't even know the name, so that people were asking us, like, oh, so why are you in...
Saw Bridgetooth.
Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
I was
that's
like,
crazy.
Oh, snap. I don't know.
Just like, hey, Airbnb cheap cheap here. Okay, we're going.
Yeah.
No, but it's great because you always end up meeting really cool, nice people. Like I love staying at Airbnbs instead of hotels or motels or something. Cause you always experience, things.
You're kind of part of the fabric of
you always talk about exactly.
We lucked out. He
really cool.
definitely did a great job in it because normally, like when we got to Croatia, that town.
To Croatia. That's
yeah,
cool.
we went to record the sea organ. It's in the
okay.
So I mean that town, that Venetian style town. It's on an island connected to the city, but it's Croatia. Makes their most of their money comes from tourism. We were in the off season, so prices for an Airbnb for a 3-bedroom, and in the actual like town itself, where the sea organ is. I mean, it was nothing compared to what we would have paid in another season when everyone's coming.
Yeah.
And we got
time to travel, smart.
well, I mean,
and then if you compare that to the cost of living in LA, anyways, like almost anywhere else in the world, you can like easily afford. That's why like traveling for us living in LA, traveling is not expensive. It's just the flight tickets. Everything else is probably cheaper than here.
Smart. That's a great point too.
That traveling can be cheaper also if you develop skills that allow you to save money.
Yeah.
Jonas is a master of being frugal, but I mean,
I'm starting to learn that.
with combined skills, and you can really find ways to curb your budget and to afford the things that you never thought you could, and it's totally doable. It really is totally doable. And once you start doing it, you realize you start finding out these nooks and crannies and how to do it, and it makes a huge difference and it builds your life in a way that's just like, I mean, I could talk about, oh my gosh, nothing wrong, but I have friends that live their life to go see Santa Monica, and that's great, pure. It's great, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you live in a place, they get the magic that kind of disappears, and all these touristy things kind of are touristy for a reason, and we don't really, to us that's not what our tourism is about. It's about finding these new narratives,
I love that. That's really
and because it becomes a personal journey that other people have taken the road less traveled by, and it yields. Again, that's where all this inspiration for the music comes from, is being different or choosing a path that's different and doing things differently, and being able to adapt, because you have to be adaptable. I mean, we had a situation where Jonas couldn't renew his phone service plan because it's kind of weird in Europe. And and I was having problems with Sprint trying to get 4G network, so I'm running on low speed data, and he lost his data. and so for when we're in Italy, like for the rest of our Italian trip for the next 2-3 days, we are. It's funny. We can say that, like, there was a time. All right, so we lost all service in Tuscany.
Well, we hadn't booked a room for the night.
No. Okay, so you guys are like without accommodation.
So we had a car and stuff. So what we did, we had our Wi-Fi on, like thing on, and we drove around Bologna, trying to see if we could find Wi-Fi. So we parked illegally next to a phone store that had Wi-Fi that we could tap into, and he booked everything. and then
that's pretty smart.
I preloaded the maps on my phone so that we took like all my memory, but definitely made sure that we could get around.
Right, that's kind of like priority.
But we were running blind, and what a story! But like you learned that people were doing this before this technology,
right? It's crazy how like dependent you are on like your phone right now, and Facebook and all this stuff.
And so the cool thing about it is that we're going to be, in some way that's going to inspire something musically, and there's going to be something musically said about that experience. And those are the hidden, those are the gems I'm talking about, the things that you don't expect, but the things that you learn about being, as Marines, we always are adapting and overcoming, right? Semper Fi. But I mean,
but true, yeah.
That's what it is, because that is where you start learning more about yourself. You start learning more about the world. You start paying attention to the other things that you weren't relying on. You start seeing this lonely planet in a less lonely way. There's so many things around if you just open your eyes.
I mean, the simple answer for that we did in Europe that worked pretty well. I think it's an easy travel tip for everyone. Just turn off the option freeways on your phone, and it sends you through actually places that actually are nice.
Wow, that's really cool.
So,
and that's the same here in the U.S. too.
idea.
I mean, yeah, it's the same. Yeah, exactly.
Anywhere you go.
I gotta do that more.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, yeah, if you plan to give yourself more time to get somewhere, it's so much more rewarding than just trying to get the point A to point B, because, you know, we can go really deep about this, but I mean, how much in my life here, I know it's go, go, go. And at some point you're just like, man, you start like feeling sad, or you're just like, you're missing out on things. And, you know, what happened? Why haven't you just, you can plan to give yourself time to experience things that are not planned. You know, I mean, there are so many beautiful things, even within Los Angeles. You know, just down the street, we have a historical site, you know, Campo de Cahuenga, and these other places. Right. Everybody passes by. Everyone sees Universal Studios, but, you know.
Dominion.
But there's you don't know there's something so historical about Los Angeles, and there's these small pockets of it. And if you take the time to just take a look, you'll find something really amazing, another side of this area that you only see as commercial. And
I mean, I think you're hitting a great point just in general too. It's like our society is completely a go, 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 you know. And it's funny when you finally get there to where you're trying to go, you find yourself waiting, or I find myself waiting, and I'm just flipping through my phone, checking Instagram mindlessly. I'm checking Facebook, just doing numb things that have very little meaning to me. So I love when you say, you know, try to give yourself time to experience what maybe you weren't planning, because like you talked about, some of I think the most special experiences, or, you know, in terms of growth in yourself, come out of those things that are unplanned, come out of those challenges, and ultimately make you realize, like, maybe I should turn off the highway option more. Because
you know, that applies to life in general. Like, embrace the moments that are unplanned, that are different, that are new, and because that's a lot of times where actually that's what life is.
That's what life is. Yeah,
that's where things come from. So if you have some kind of idea stuck in your head that how life needs to be, that, you know.
If it wasn't for 100%. If it wasn't for the spontaneity, if it wasn't for just appreciating things around, I don't think I would have met Jonas, or this project wouldn't have come to fruition, or I wouldn't met, you know, some of the most authentic relationships I've made in my life are in the actual human connection I've made with people, or a human connection I've made with people, not this whole swiping culture and this you know, and it's there. This is our culture today, and there's you know, I mean, that's just evolution, and there's nothing, you know, that's just what it is. I don't see is it bad or good. It depends on what do you want. Do you want to spend your life on a tiny screen, or do you want to be inside of that screen?
Ooh, that's great.
You know, I mean, another thing, like we did the Old Spanish Trail featuring Trevin Nelson on banjo. And
where is that?
The Old Spanish Trail spans from Santa Fe, New Mexico, all the way across the Southwest.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it's when that comes out, it's going to be pretty wicked. And we had an amazing entrepreneur, artist, a local in Taos, New Mexico, who gave us kind of, I don't know, I would say it's like our manifesto. It's our mantra. And, you know, what did he say?
Oh man, he said so many inspirational things. Rick Aragon we all love him to death. So no, I was just working on the footage of that, and so I was rewatching, you know, things that we were just talking about, and he said, I mean, you know, he was talking about the keeping up with the Joneses and all that, and he was like, don't stop making other people's dreams come true. You know, stop buying other people's cars. You know, it's like when you have a job, you work for a company or something, and you're like pushing yourself to your limits like every day, but you're actually doing it for someone else's dreams to come true.
Some shareholders getting rich off of you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
that hurts so much, but it's so good. You like stop making someone else's dreams. I love that. And then I love like what you said about do you want to be the guy watching the screen or in that screen kind of thing. Some good. I guess I'm gonna take that today.
Well, I mean, isn't that what we do? We always think about. I mean, the thing is like, what makes you happy? If you are a person that wants to make a difference, then make a difference. But you have to be willing to be different. You have to be willing to take the steps. And I don't believe. I believe in working hard, but I believe that it can get you nowhere. I believe in working smart, and working smart.
That's why you left the Marine Corps?
Smart.
Just joking. Just joking.
Yeah, I don't think that. Well, I did work smart in cleaning the toilets, but.
Well done. That's interesting. Both of you guys have really interesting stories too. I'd love to dive into. When hopefully have time after this. But anyways, yeah. Sorry.
But that's the thing. Like, we become these corporate minions, or this, a fixed gear and in a revolving society.
Oh, yeah.
And
that's a great way to put it.
And I mean, sure, that's what it is, but you have to ask yourself, does that fulfill me? Is that what I'm happy? Because some people are very happy with and very complacent with that kind of simple life. And if you know what you want, and then that's great. If you want a life and adventure, that is not the life. You have to make different choices.
Yeah.
If you want to gain something much more rich than that for yourself, and in terms of exploration and adventure and art, it comes with high risk, high rewards in a way. So you have to be willing to step out of your shell and read a book to give you inspiration how to make a friend and talk to somebody that you've never talked to before.
I mean, I think that's great. Like, it ties back into what you talked about, and like, how are you guys funding your trip? And I love how you talked about it. It's like a lot of it's basic, simple things that aren't magic tricks. It's frugality. It's should I buy this expensive plugin that I maybe don't need?
Yes.
And save that for a plane ticket? Yeah, I know. I usually always
should buy our plugins.
Okay, well, but you're taking a leap of faith essentially to do something that most people would think, oh, that's crazy, I could never do that. But you're doing it in a way where it makes a lot of sense, and I think it sounds like when you're taking that leap and you finally make the step to fly to England, and you're staying in these cheap Airbnbs, you're finding ways to make it happen. Like I said, you're finding those nooks and crannies. You're becoming very resourceful, to the point where you may not, maybe you haven't booked the accommodation for the next day, but you're driving around town and you're finding Wi-Fi. But I love it. I think it sounds like it ties back into everything else as well. Like Symphonic Planet in itself, like you guys are been running this startup for a couple of years, and you're finding ways to grow.
Exponentially, and I mean, we have grown as individuals, and we have grown together. A lot of these trials and errors, and figuring out how we need to work together, and how to continue inspiring others. And you have to be the big thing. I'm a huge fan of Outward Bound School, and I am I'm a veteran of both school, two of them, and
that's the outdoor leadership school.
Mm-hmm. And you put in a lot of survival conditions.
That sounds amazing.
My favorite thing that comes out of them is their flag, and they have a two-colored flag, and they're both squares, and their small square, colored square, is your comfort zone, and your goal in Outward Bound School is to make your flag, to make that white square cover the rest of the flag. So representing that you need to step outside of your comfort zone, and you need to do the things that you're not comfortable with. You need to get out and experience the unknown and learn to live life with it and adapt to it, because in situations where, okay, what if we didn't have a car? Okay, well, we know how to camp, we know how to makeshift something, we are creative, and or who knows, you may make a friend and someone for life, and then they ask you, say, hey, you can stay with me, we want to hear your story. And then next thing you know, you've made you're building a family, across the globe of people, and you're sharing that kindness that I feel like a lot of us are missing. But I mean,
what's interesting about when you say, like, it totally makes me think about when I came to Los Angeles as well. For me, the reason I got into traveling is really interesting. I was a total career person. Like 24/7, I was being a sound engineer and producer, and I was trying to, and the reason I came to LA because that's a place to be. Like there's no better, but you know, but the whole process of like getting here and like, exactly, like you know the whole thing about like, you know, I worked a year for like 10 hours a day to make enough money to be able to like to survive here for the first couple months and stuff until, you know, I found whatever ways to make money, and all this like thing about flights and visas and everything's really complicated. It's a big deal, and you know, went through all that, and then in the end I came here, and I was so like excited by all this that I didn't really fit in anymore into this like entertainment industry that I came from and that I actually came here for, you know.
Yeah, interesting how that evolved. And
yeah, so before that I would have probably been like many other people, was like, no, I don't travel. Why? Like you think you're better than me because you go to some foreign countries.
Right.
I'm really happy making music, you know, in my studio because music makes me happy, right? And I really had to be like thrown into this thing.
Sorry, I don't know how that.
Okay. Like really, like my crazy like career focus made me do this travel thing. I would have never done this without having this thing. Oh, I need to be successful in Hollywood, you know.
Okay.
And yeah, and
I mean, real quick, I just. You know, Jonas, that's really interesting you talk about that because I think for most people, just jumping into the music industry itself is like a kind of a crazy dream. And now you're talking like a step beyond that where like you see the career path in front of you. And, you know, for many people it works and maybe make them happy, maybe not. But now you're taking that next leap after that. You see, like, I don't want to be working in like this cave, you know, 12 hours a day, mixing someone else's stuff. Like you're an artist and you also want to travel and see stuff and like, evolving to that is really cool, very impressive, and I think takes a lot of courage too.
I mean, if I can add to that, Jonas is an incredible example of an entrepreneur who has answered a demand with his own skills and answered a demand in the industry with his 24 Violins company.
Oh man, we gotta bring that up.
And you know, I bring that up because there are a lot of great string players and there are a lot of great engineers, but where do you get one that is of both worlds and who has, you know, this wealth of experience? I mean, it's pretty cool. It really is. And you know, working with Jonas that way, but you know, congratulations on the Clio Award because
man, that's crazy, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That's you know that's
oh perfect, yeah, that's yeah, I mean
we got to give you some love here, Jonas.
Yeah,
real quick.
Oh, you want to play the Star Wars? Okay.
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, Jonas is just like getting bigger and bigger here in the LA area. He's just distant West Hollywood, moving out here, but he gets featured in very, very impressive article. I was reading it earlier in Voyage LA, calling him out on his service 24 Violins. The concept basically is you're giving them a real orchestra in a very short amount turnaround.
Yeah. I play. I mean, when I say orchestra, I mean a string orchestra without double bass. Usually, sometimes I have a bass player come in when that's requested, but I have a cellist coming in every couple days, and I play violin and viola, and I play them all myself. I don't use any samples. I have a whole setup in my Pro Tools where I play 8 first violins, 8 second violins, 6 violas, and 5 cellos.
And this is for like 24 hours?
And you can get it within 24 hours.
Holy cow!
Mix.
Oh my god!
I mean,
that's magic.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's you have some sort of magic like spell that you're doing back there.
Yeah, I mean, it's the good thing about strings is that it kind of always sounds the same no matter what genre. Like I get like stuff from DJs, metal bands, film music, every kind of genre you can imagine, but it's always a string orchestra. It's always the same setup that I'm doing.
Funny.
I don't have to like mix again every time. I have a setup. It's been worked out over like decades basically, and it's working. Sometimes it's a string quartet, sometimes it's an orchestra.
It's a great concept,
again, like working smart than working hard. Jonas developed his system, his template, his business model. It allows him to work to maximum efficiency. And he I mean it allows him to be successful and allows him to commit time to other things that are important to him.
I mean, this whole thing came out of, I mean, it's a funny story to tell. I always wanted to work for Hans Zimmer. And
yes,
like,
he's the man.
I've been like listening to his stuff from like ever since I was a kid, you know.
Yeah. 100%.
And so I got lucky when I was back in Austria. I started, you know, getting to know people and starting to work with people that worked with him and started being involved in projects for him and stuff.
Wow.
And that's why I came to LA to work with him.
Okay, to be part of the big team.
And I
right?
had good enough connections and everything that I was like able to call the engineer that works in his studio, and he's like, yeah, come over, I'll show you the studio and everything. And he had even Hans's phone number back then. But he was like, yeah, call me when you're over, you know, whatever. It was amazing. But the funny thing is, obviously, I came to LA like everyone else. I was like, well, we kind of have enough people here. We don't really need you, you know what I mean? And so I was forced to. They contacted me later. They had a job opening, and they were like, "Oh, you interested? You want to come in for an interview?" That was the biggest moment of my life to be
for Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
For one of the staff engineers at his studio, and they contacted me, being like, "Are you interested?" You know. So they invited me, but that didn't work out. Which now I say, like, luckily for me, because I was forced to come up with something else that would like work, and I really went deep about like, what do I really want in life? You know, what's my purpose? Do I want to work in like in studios like this, even like, you know, the entire day and night?
Yeah.
You know,
which that was like your dream for the longest time. So this is like a big,
And so I was like, you know what? And actually, I wrote down. I found that in another book that I wrote, the 4-Hour Work Week, which is amazing.
Love that book. Tim Ferriss, he's my
it's
boy.
amazing. And so that like
That's
there's
great. This is cool.
This little passage in there where he says like, you know, one of the things you can do to find out what you really want to do is, you know, write down your perfect day. If you were a millionaire, if you wake up tomorrow with $200 million in the bank, exactly. And so I actually did that, and I wrote down like the perfect day. If money didn't, you know, like, and I was like, you know, I would play violin, and I, you know, and I and then I had all these details like about all this stuff. And the problem with violin, I was never like a good violinist. Like it was never my career or something.
What?
Like I just sound engineering was my career, and I knew like I can, like if I keep pushing, I can make it pretty far as an engineer. As a violinist, I always knew like I can't, like I'm never gonna be as good as these people that I work for. You know what I mean? So I kind of had given up on that in a way for, you know, many years, and then I just like didn't get that job opportunity that I was working towards to my whole life basically. And I was like, okay, it doesn't matter anyways. I'm just gonna do what I love and see what happens, you know.
Tim Ferriss was like, hey man, hey, I'm back.
Yeah, no, yeah, and that book was definitely like the reason I started 24 Violins. And it was like, you know.
Quick shout, my buddy Dylan is watching, and Dylan is the guy that turned me on to Tim Ferriss and that book too. So Dylan, thank you, brother. But dude, I would have not known that violin was not like your forte before, because it just it sounds like it is. How long did you play?
I mean, I've played as a kid. I started when I was 10, and I had weekly violin lessons till I was like 18 or something.
Mixing and mastering was really became
and as a 16-year-old or like 15, something like that, you know, everyone starts playing in bands and stuff, and I started playing guitar and piano, and then I started producing and recording, and you know, I was always playing violin on the side, and I was always doing like string arrangements for artists that I worked with, and that was always a thing. So that orchestra thing, I've always kind of done that, but it was never my main thing.
She was in the backdrop.
Yeah, and I was like, you know, as an engineer, like I can really make it, and I love it, and I still love it, you know. I mean, mixing anything, I can't not do it, you know.
You're like tying it in now too.
But But yeah, that's really. And then I was like, you know what? And then, you know, some other things, you know, in LA, you meet people where it's like, oh, you're a good musician, and you make a living playing violin, but you're not as good as I think you'd be making a living. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. No. Yeah.
So I'm like, maybe I can do that too. You know, just basically, you know, maybe my standards in my head are too high, and I should just try. You know.
Right.
And I mean, I wasn't that great at the beginning, anyways. It took a couple of years until I got my playing up to like a certain level where I can, you know, at least deliver.
Sorry. Should turn off this phone here.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean, long story short, long story long. Basically.
That's incredible. I had no idea. I think that's really cool too, how it kind of culminated in one of your lifelong dreams with Hans Zimmer. You know, with that not working out, with you having to look within yourself and create another path. which
Yeah.
sounds, I mean, again, Noor talked about it was like a niche that had a demand that had not yet been filled. I've never heard of that until Noor talked about it, with me, and it's. I mean, I working on my own stuff as well. Like I love strings. I think everybody loves strings. To find some sort of way to have real strings and mix and master, it's you add onto your project in a short amount of time. Like that sounds like incredibly impossible, and that's cool that it's like it ties in your mixing, engineer sort of expertise with your love of violin. Or violins, and sounds like other things too that you're throwing in there. And so that's what a cool story.
Yeah. Thanks.
Well, the result of it, Jonas now wins the Clio award.
Yeah. Okay. So when
team.
that happened, by the way,
So
right?
that
That's another funny story. It's like imagine you win an Oscar but nobody tells you about it.
Whoa. Yeah. So
like it was literally so it was 2 years ago that I got this opportunity to write it was a rewrite of an old Disney classic for a commercial for Disney. They came out with a Blu-ray edition of Bambi, and they were looking for a song, and it was a pitch. Like there were probably thousands of people sending in their songs, and I got that email me like, yeah, we're looking for a song, like, but it needs to be all done very specific what they wanted, like based on this old song, and you can use these melodies, and you can use the lyrics and stuff. It has to be done by tomorrow with a singer and everything, basically. That's how these things work in TV commercials. That's and I've done like, luckily to my friend Daniel Ware. He's the most amazing human being. He's a film composer, and I was basically working for him as part of a bigger team for almost an entire year writing TV music for reality TV.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and so here and there we would get an email of like, oh, this is a big opportunity. This is a commercial for a big thing.
Yeah, we need it right now.
And these things are always right now. So luckily, I had this amazing singer that was staying at our place. That was back then it was an Airbnb room, and she had just the evening before showed me her stuff and was like, she's great. And I got this email and I was like, okay, she would be perfect for that. I can probably do that. And because I play guitar and I do producing and stuff, so I just like did the track within a day and played violins on it as well. Wow. and then it was this whole process of like, yeah, I got in the last round or whatever, and in the end we won the pitch, and so they used the song for the commercial, and that was that for us. And then you
did that within like a day, basically. Like,
yeah,
you had to throw it together, but
it was like the first version was within a day, and then there was feedback, and there was like, oh, by the way, here's the picture. Now you see how it looks, and can you change this and this and this, and then we went from there.
That's kind of exciting when you've got something that's working. Okay, and so
yeah, it was great, and then it came out. I mean, it was amazing writing, producing music for a commercial like that. Obviously,
and you said Disney, right? Was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it went through Burnett Music Group. They were we were working with them back then. Anyways, but so we didn't even know it was submitted to any kind of awards or anything. Yeah. And then our singers, Ashley, her name is Ashley. Her mom just posted something about it.
And no way.
Oh wait.
That's how you guys found out?
Yeah, and then I posted it. It was like, oh cool, we won an award, and then one of our friends commented, it's like, you know what, that's a big deal. It's like the Oscars for advertising.
Yeah,
it's the biggest
crazy.
Advertising award in the world. And I didn't even know that. But yeah.
God. I love how you found out about that, by the way. It's like, hey, by the way, you basically won an Oscar.
And now just recently I've done all this research because I'm applying for a green card, so I need to show how great I am.
Can I find the commercial anywhere?
Commercial? If you it's not really on YouTube. You can go to the Clio Award website. It's posted there. If you Clio Award, you just Google for.
I gotta see this now.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, it was a big team effort, and, it's always complicated who gets credited and whatnot. But,
yeah.
Well, how to I don't know how you find it. It's called Bambi April Showers. So if you Google that, you'll find it. And you put in the Clio Awards.
April Showers?
April Showers, and you put in Clio Awards, and then you'll find it. Yeah.
This guy?
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
So, I didn't write the song, together with a couple of others.
That's your guitar? melody from the movie, right? It's got a nice, beautiful, kind of catchy vibe going. It's nice hooks. Wow, and you guys put that together like that, basically.
Luckily, because I can play guitar, I can play bass, I know how to program drums and everything, and I had a singer right there. So
that's pretty cool that she was saying like right there. That's pretty funny.
But I mean, on the other hand, that's the thing in LA though. That's really amazing. You have all these great artists that like. I have a pool of singers, like probably 20 people who would like be able to show up within 2 hours at my studio at any time. I think if I do a project like that. So that's the amazing thing about LA.
Yeah, obviously. And again, doing 24 violins, it sounds like you're getting like. Talk about a bass player or like a cellist or something, right? Like you need it like that.
Exactly.
If you don't do it,
you can. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible, man. And I mean, obviously the track is really nice, but congratulations on that award.
Thank you.
Like,
thank you.
It's amazing, and it's an amazing story. How I love that. It's like, oh, her mom posted it. You reposted.
Yeah.
Like, hey, brother, that's a big deal.
And it's funny because I just found out about the award ceremony. This year it's at the Kodak Theater. And last year it was across the street at the El Capitan. The year where I won. And about all the celebrities that were there. And I was like, oh, it would have been fun to be at that party.
No way.
But whatever. I mean, it's like so many people involved. Nobody it's like you're putting out so much music. Like it just ends up somewhere, and you don't always know about it. Yeah. So I actually had to like call and order the award, so I'm getting it in the mail.
You put it in like a plaque or something.
It's an actual award. Yeah. It's it looks like it's not an Oscar, but I'm getting it in the mail tonight probably. Wow. Yeah.
Congratulations. That really is. That's like impressive. Guys, for those of you joining on Facebook or just joining us on YouTube now, again, I'm here with none other than the founders of Symphonic Planet, Jordan Peterson and Noor. These guys travel the world in search of really, really cool sounds, build them into their tracks, and hopefully some new music's going to come out soon. You got to check out, they've got an amazing, amazing new debut album called Destination Imagination. Just came out on wherever you listen to music, Spotify, iTunes, and all that. Really beautiful. It's great for your trip to Big Bear, I gotta say. But no, you guys are what a really cool story. I did want to show just a little bit more too what you were doing. I love this footage from Europe here too. By the way, I can switch out over it here. Oh wait, here real quick. I saw this earlier, Jonas. And I was like, oh man, this is pretty sick. Jonas is so talented. He could play with Kylo Ren's.
Yeah, that was how I started 24 Violins.
Oh, nice.
That video.
That is talent right there. I know you can see through that mask, but oh, dude, yeah. Big Star Wars guy too. That's great.
Thanks.
But cool. These guys travel around the world, man. I'm so jealous. This is such. I mean, a job would be cool, but this is like you guys are building something, and that's I think even more exciting. And the fact that has so much purpose behind it, and that it's only growing, is even more exciting to me. And this was a few months ago?
Yeah, this was last month.
We are here in Madrid, Spain, on our last day of our Symphonic Planet journey through Europe.
We covered a lot of miles by air, by car, by train, all the way through Europe, back and forth.
You can watch
so we've done a lot on these 10 days, and I think it was really quite something.
Jonas started the journey kind of a little bit before I did.
Yeah, I went with my brother to the Old Harrier Rocks in southern England. It was nice, and I got really inspired by the environment, so I just started playing violin there.
That's an awesome shot, by the way. Oh my God.
Thank you.
I know how you're doing the drum.
Credit goes out to my brother Felix. He's in Germany right now. Yeah, he joined us on that trip.
Wow. Well, you guys have to go pretty soon. We're gonna have to wrap up here. But this has been awesome. I, for one, I can't thank you enough for being, here and talking about your story. And also just to learn about you more as artists, and how you came to kind of come together to form this project and to grow, into what you're doing and what you're going. I do have one more question though. Where's next? What's the next expedition?
Ha.
And how do I sign up?
Well, I mean, if you're free Sunday, you can come with us to the lava tubes.
Lava tubes, damn.
Well, we will put out some upcoming expeditions.
All right.
We can't share that information just yet. But there's a lot of. But if you want to have an idea,
he gets a 10% commission for this book that doesn't even sell.
I wish. I think I would get the commission back on myself because everybody that's a part of Symphonic Planet, the team, they get a copy of this book. So they get a better copy of this book than I do. I keep the really rugged, almost broken.
Notes are like written in
terrible college student textbook one. But yeah. But you can expect some really, really neat new things, new collaborations, and going to do different things. We're always growing, we're always expanding, we're always creating, we're always thinking about what is the new way to experience music and travel, and how do we make a difference. And we're always, just coming up with those ideas. So, I mean, it only grows from here. So, just stay tuned and keep supporting us, and we'll be able to offer that experience to you.
I loved how it's grown from let's find a way to fun traveling around the world to let traveling becoming a purpose, I guess. Also growing to like some sexy looking VSTs and plugins are going to come out very soon. I'm excited for that. And like you talked about, a full multimedia operation that I think has a lot of great things behind it. It's going to do a lot of good for the world, but also it sounds like you guys are happy doing it, which at the end of the day, as artists,
there's no greater feelings than making a difference through your passion. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, it's really. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No.
Sometimes I like when when I don't feel good, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do, and I just don't feel like depressed and something. I literally just start playing violin and working on something like Symphonic Planet or something else, and it immediately makes me feel like good again. I mean, it's amazing when you have like some kind of a passion or something that you are able to make work for you, that you can do it all day. It's like what we do, travel or stuff. Where you feel like, oh, that's what I have to do to feel good and to be a good person and to be everything else.
Of course, it took a leap of faith. It sounds like searching within yourself, evolving through some challenges that were from the outside and from the inside too. It sounds like.
I mean, it's really special when you can share that experience with people that you care about and your friends and with making new ones along the way.
And to close, it's usually we've got one person here, and talking about what they're doing with their dream and how they're building. But it's really cool that you guys are here together, and I can definitely tell there's a chemistry here. There's some sort of similar soul sort of thing musically as well. And I definitely think that feeds off each other and helps you guys be successful.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm sorry I only had one today, and shame on me for not having a second one, but I did want to give you guys a coveted Sonder City pin for being on the podcast.
All right.
Very sexy as well, but thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah, you need that.
No. You get it, Jonas.
Here, just because you're closer, then you can pin it on him after.
Perfect, yeah.
There you go, brother. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you guys for joining us as well, being part of it, and being part of the conversation. If you've got any more interest in checking these guys out, and you should, because there's so much cool things going on with Symphonic Planet, follow them on Facebook right after this. The links are right below. Check them out on YouTube, subscribe, and definitely, not least of all, go and check out the album Destination Imagination, wherever you listen to music, Apple Music, Spotify, all that stuff. It's beautiful. You need to save it and you need to support them as well, because I'm definitely going to be listening to that for a lot of times coming. I can't wait for the next one, guys. Thank you for being here, though.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.
Jonas, nice to meet you, I guess, for the second time.
Like this, yeah.
Man, really.
Alrighty.
All right. Bye-bye. Wait, where were the